On my main channel this weekend, I released a review on both the 125 400mm 1.25 teleconverter and the 300mm f4 prime by Olympus. Both lenses are some great pieces of glass and come with a pretty decently hefty price tag. In this video, I'll be talking about my thought process and comparing the two lenses side by side so that you can make an informed decision on which one you think is best for you. Starting out with the features and build on these lenses, I think that the Olympus 300mm f4 takes the gold. Even though the Olympus 150 to 400mm has more custom function buttons, the Olympus 300mm f4 has a built-in focus clutch that was probably my favorite small feature included on a super telephoto lens that I've ever used. I loved the ability to snap in and out of a manually set focus instantaneously, and this alone was worth a good price in my mind. I also really appreciated the sliding lens hood of the 300mm, as it's always annoying for me to deal with a lens hood on super telephoto lenses. The one feature that I did enjoy using with the 150 to 400mm was the 1.25 teleconverter, however. Built in, it was super easy to use, and it seemed to retain the image quality well. When it comes to feeling and build, I have to say that I did like the 300mm prime a little more, as it felt a little more solidly built, and the manual focus ring had a certain touch to it that was more to my liking. The 150 to 400mm zoom felt a little more plasticky, but I see why Olympus built it in order to keep it lighter for their users, since Olympus, now OM Systems, has built a target audience around portability and lightweight, so it's important that they abide by that standard. Now, in regards to image quality, I observed that the Olympus 300mm f4 took the win. In sharpness tests that I did, the 300mm prime was absolutely tack sharp and outperformed the 150 to 400 zoom by a long shot with a wide open f-stop, and I was thoroughly impressed by its results. This is great news for the 300, but not so great news for the 150 to 400, as it costs more than double the price of the 300. Chromatic aberration wasn't bad on either, but it was slightly existent on the 150 to 400 zoom in harsh and contrasted lighting, where it didn't even exist on the 300. F-stop numbers on these two lenses are similar, but the Olympus 300mm gets an additional point here, as it can get slightly lower at f4 as opposed to f4.5 on the Olympus 150 to 400. This is small, but it can make a big difference out in the field, especially with the low light capabilities of the MFT format. In image stabilization, the Olympus 150 to 400 was undoubtedly the most impressive thing that I've ever seen, however. Combined with the OM1, it receives up to 8 stops of image stabilization, which looked plenty usable even at up to 1000mm full frame equivalent handheld, which is insane. The Olympus 300mm was decent with 4 stops built in, however, it would cap out around 7 stops with the combined OM1, so it wasn't as effective as the 150-400 zoom. One other area that the 150 to 400 wins in is the obvious area of versatility, as you can shoot slightly wider shots at 300mm full frame equivalent and up to 1000mm full frame equivalent on the close end. For my style of shooting, I love this flexibility in zoom range, and this is definitely a sell for me. But when it comes to price, the Olympus 150 to 400mm is 2.5 times the price of the Olympus 300mm. If we think about all the ways that I just compared these two lenses in this video, it just doesn't quite make sense to me on why I would spend my money on the Olympus 150 to 400 as opposed to the Olympus 300. If prices were perfectly equal, I probably would be inclined to pick the Olympus 150 to 400 ever so slightly because of its flexibility and versatility in focal range. But in almost every other way besides image stabilization, the Olympus 300mm takes the gold, including in image sharpness, which is of the utmost importance in my mind. If you want to see more details on either of these two lenses that I reviewed, you can check out my reviews released on my main channel this weekend in the end screen here, and I'll see you guys next time.